Welcome to Blueprints, a Chargers Unleashed podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and with me today are the very familiar Dan and Jake. How you guys doing?
Great, man. I'm pumped for you. Inaugural episode of Blueprints. Welcome officially to your first show. Excited to see what you do with it, but all is good, man. Holidays were crazy. Can't believe it's already over. Thanks for having us.
They're still here for me.
Obviously.
It's not going down ever. That means I have to take it down, and I'm just not going to.
Don't feel bad, man. My wife always, at least when it comes to the Christmas tree, it's the last piece of the decorations that go down. And they're probably staying up, at least the Christmas tree is, for at least another 3 weeks. So don't feel bad about that. You're at least, you know what, dude? Nobody could ever say that you're not festive. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'll leave it up and I'll watch Elf.
The question, the important question is though, Jason, how long after you put the stuff away before the next thing or the next holiday stuff goes up? So like Christmas stuff goes down. Is it like Easter? Is it Valentine's Day? Like, does it get to 4th of July? Like, how far before the next event with decorations go up?
10 months until Christmas. Halloween, maybe. I actually decorated a little for Halloween this year, but no, for the most part, I don't really like decorate for other holidays outside of Christmas. This is my first year decorating for Halloween. I do, obviously I celebrate Valentine's Day sometimes. My wife's been good. She's on the Valentine's nice list. I got a list too.
Awesome.
Take that, Mr. Claus. All right, so today we're going to be getting into Jake. How are you? You know what? We didn't ask Jake how he was. Jake, how are you?
Jake, you know that I'm doing fine. I appreciate you coming back around and asking me that question again.
100%.
This is your show, sir. Like Dan said, we're stoked for your first one. Again, very happy to have you be a part of the team, and specifically, this is an appropriate conversation for what we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks, especially as it relates to a certain head coach that Jason's going to be digging into here in just a second. But I'm stoked about this, man. Really, really excited to kind of see this whole breakdown that you have. So floor is yours, sir. Go for it.
All right. So today we are going to be talking about a little bit of Kellen Moore, a little bit of Ben Johnson. Actually, a lot of both. There's not much else beyond that. So it's just a lot of Kellen Moore and a lot of Ben Johnson. So the Chargers entered the 2023 season with high hopes for offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, who led a top 10 offense in Dallas, not so much in LA. It had a good start. It had a good start, guys. I don't know. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it went wrong. Obviously, it had its ups and downs early in the season. But there wasn't an exact moment, I feel like, up until maybe that stretch of losses where I really started to notice, like, man, it's just nothing's going right for the offense. And, you know, there were the weeks where, you know, I'm sure you guys would talk back and forth too. I would talk back and forth, Dan, like, what the heck is going on with this offense, man? This is not an NFL offense that they're running right now. And they have Justin Herbert at quarterback, and Keenan Allen's having a career year. What are you guys' takes on that offense before we get into this comparison here on where exactly you think it went wrong for the Chargers offense and why?
God, I mean, where it went wrong is just, I mean, what a tease that it was from the beginning of the season with that Miami game where you're going over 200 yards rushing, and then seamlessly the run game for the Chargers has disappeared for the remainder of the season. I've never seen anything like that, to where you could be that good after everything that we had heard in training camp as far as what the running game was going to be like. And you thought that first step was, okay, this is Kellen Moore taking over the offense. This is a big upgrade over what Joe Lombardi had last year. And then I don't know what switch didn't flip and continued to not flip for 16 weeks afterwards. But to your point, Jason, there were struggles the very next week in Tennessee where the game plan just seemingly wasn't there. Minnesota, as I know that you had said on our live show last week, was one of the better games that Kellen Moore had coached. And then if you take the aspects of the game against Detroit, where it ended up being an offensive shootout, those would probably be the 2 times this entire season where you could think of to say, okay, the boy wonder aura that was put over Kellen Moore when he came over to the Chargers, those were the 2 games that he really got in his bag. Outside of that, it seemed like there were so many struggles to find it.
Yeah, honestly, like I don't know if there was really a specific game, honestly. Like it just felt like it was just a multitude, a cascade of things that continuously just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And obviously the injuries played a part in that. Losing Corey Linsley was huge, and Mike Williams early was huge, and Eckler not there for a bit was huge. And then you lost Josh Palmer for a while, which was huge. And then just all of that's there, right? But you can't discredit the fact that Kellen Moore and the offense, they never seem to adjust, whether that's personnel or scheme. And you can look at even the Raiders game, the first one, that wasn't a great offensive output. They won 24-17. Then after that, lost to the Cowboys. That offense wasn't great. 17 points, that's not good enough. The Chiefs, we all remember that, 17 points. The second half of that game was brutal.
I think I remember in the Cowboys game, they really struggled to get going until the end of the first half, if I remember correctly, when they just started sending it to Keenan Allen pretty much every passing down. Yeah, and you could say similar about almost every game is they struggle until they start getting Keenan Allen the ball, which is maybe that's a just big plus for Keenan Allen, or maybe that's just you kind of got to get other people involved. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the thing too. Is I think the challenge is when I talk about not being able to adjust. We have all seen the Quentin Johnston struggles. We've all seen some of the questionable, whether it's play calling and some of the runs up the middle and some of the just lack of execution. All of it's there. But when you're looking at an offense that has Justin Herbert, now granted, Justin Herbert also is like Edward Scissorhands out here. One hand's busted for a month, the next hand's busted. It's just been a cascade of terrible all season. But I'm looking at outputs the last 6 weeks, right? The Lions game was probably the best offensive output aside from probably the Dolphins game. But even that, the first half Lions game, the offense was terrible.
Oh, dude.
That shows
how bad.
But that shows the potential that they can be so bad for a half and still score 38 points.
Yeah. And like we were just talking about a second ago, when it really seemed like they were done until they started just force-feeding Keenan Allen the ball. And then Keenan Allen was out for a couple of drives, and it didn't slow down. He got him started, and they just kept going. And Justin Herbert was on it. And that would, if they won that game, that probably would have been one of my favorite Chargers games ever. That was such a fun game to watch, and also not. But one of my personal favorite Chargers games to watch. So the Chargers were expected to take huge strides offensively with the Kellen Moore hire. And while the highs have been high, as we just discussed, it's the inconsistencies week to week that really killed, I would say, killed the offensive culture they were setting under, believe it or not, Joe Lombardi, which was consistency marching down the field, right? And even though everybody had their issues with the lack of the deep passing game or with the red zone issues, they did have plans in place with Joe Lombardi that allowed for consistent drives. Time of possession. Time of possession is extremely important in the NFL. It's usually slept on. It's usually flies under the radar. It's very important because if you're not holding onto the ball, it just presents more opportunities for the other team. So it's fair to say Kellen Moore's offense has significantly underwhelmed. However, as we were just talking about, the highs with Keenan Allen, you don't want those to go away. And you don't want that trust between Herbert and Allen, those major building block there between Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert. You don't want it to go away. And so that's really important when you're going and looking for a new head coach, is especially one that calls offensive plays. Does he do something similar to what Kellen Moore did with Keenan Allen? And it's fair to say that new candidate, a favorite amongst many, Ben Johnson. And I think it's very fair to say that he does something very similar with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has had a phenomenal years with Ben Johnson. And, he's a very similar player to Keenan Allen. There was a lot of those comps just because every time the's a good route runner that comes out of college. Keenan. There's Keenan Allen. It's like I'm watching number 13, and you see it everywhere. And while sometimes I have an issue with it, this time I didn't take too much issue with that one. So you don't want to take away what works well for the Chargers offense, but at the same time, the team is due for an overhaul. They already moved on from Coach Brandon Staley and GM Tom Telesco. And with those prior mentioned inconsistencies, you can likely expect Kellen Moore is also to be on the move to make way for that new coaching regime.
So Ben Johnson, if he comes in, you believe that Kellen Moore would not be retained?
You know, Dan, it would make sense. it would make sense that Kellen Moore would probably not be there. Unless Kellen Moore just wants to, just hang out. I mean, that doesn't seem like a bad gig to me.
just to hang out.
Just hang out.
Just here to party.
I'm going to take a year off. I'm just going to hang out with the Chargers offensive staff.
Good play call.
It sounds like a good one right there. Sounds like a pretty good vacation. I am curious to know this, JC, because I know that we were talking about this last week. There's a lot of Harbaugh talk, and rightfully so, on this or on Chargers Unleashed. But would this comparison, obviously, from the break-in that you're about to do between Ben Johnson and Kellen Moore, is it safe to say that he is, spoiler alert, your number 2 option? Should the Chargers go down the first-year head coach again?
I'm going to make a list, and I'm going to stamp it onto Twitter that says breaking Jim Harbaugh, Ben Johnson. And then there's just a list of everybody else.
Fair enough. Okay. That's well said.
So Jim Harbaugh is number 1. And I feel like I have to say that every time. It's a dangerous world out there, guys. If you say that you like Ben Johnson and you do not preface that with, I like Jim Harbaugh more.
You're immediately pegged as that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you are you're one of those you're one of those progressive analytic guys.
Yeah.
All right.
We still need, even on this show, we still need that running ticker that is on here that says Jim Harbaugh is the number 1 option.
We'll keep it going. We'll keep the ticker going. Otherwise, we're all in trouble together. All right. So from this point, I want to pull up the best game to show Ben Johnson versus Kellen Moore, which would be the Detroit Lions versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Back way when things were a lot more hopeful, but also still very depressing. But we'll get into that right now.
Pretty much the whole dynamic of being a Chargers fan. Hopeful and depressing.
Hopeful and depressing. It's what we do best.
Hopeful and depressing. Coming up next on Blueprints.
Except now, it's just depressing.
That's right.
But hopeful for Jim Harbaugh.
That's right.
And Ben Johnson. So here we have the Lions lined up, starting in a balanced formation. 2 down in the bottom of your screen and 2 at the top of your screen. We have Eric Kendricks doing his best impression of the Jazz hands. And we have Sam Laporta coming down from the top of the screen and across the formation. Now, take a key note as I start from the beginning. Compare where the defense lines up. Compare it to where they are when he gets down here. You're going to see a dramatic shift across the board. Yards. You're talking yards of leverage moved here. You're talking an entire defense shifting to the bottom of the screen. I'm just going to play that back. Take note of where Kenneth Murray is. And very key here, take note of where Alohi Gilman is. And move forward. So Alohi Gilman starts at the hash here. And now he's basically halfway between the hashes and the numbers. The goal is to appropriately shift that defense. You know what they're going to do. You know what the correct alignment they should be is. So when you move your receiver or your ace tight end down, and you get everybody to move, including Khalil Mack, who is not in a position to rush the passer anymore, which is exactly, got him right where you want him. So it moves him over appropriately, and Gilman immediately has given 14. He's this happy guy right here, and he is happy because he sees Alohi Gilman move over basically halfway between the numbers and hashes. And so before the ball is even snapped, you have given up leverage. Leverage is attained by the offense. And this is exactly what Ben Johnson wants. And this is not a fault of, this is not saying the defense did anything wrong per se. This is not saying anything about the scheme. Khalil Mack is not in a position to rush, but whatever. I'm going to stop it at the 50. I'm not even going to keep going from there. I'm going to stop it when, keep an eye on Amon-Ra St. Brown, gets to the 50. And I want to stop it right there.
Yo.
That's a good spot. That's a good spot to stop it.
Oh, no. I haven't seen this play. I know where it's going. This
looks like you could totally do like one of those choose your own adventure type of multiple choice questions. So what's going to happen next?
Yeah, exactly. What is going to happen next?
And every single one that you could pick is probably going to be something bad.
When Jason press plays, you'll see what happens next. So Jared Goff, you can see his eyes exactly where they are. Our favorite, Derwin James. Unfortunate year he's having, but still one of those guys that you want to know where he is at all times. Jared Goff knows where he is right now. And where Derwin James is looking at this flanker dig right here. And this flanker dig is designed that way because what you are creating is a deep, high-low concept. And so what you're looking at is you're looking at this safety and you're deciding, where's the safety going? If the safety is going this way, well, you're probably not going to throw back here. You're probably going to throw to this guy on the flanker dig. But what happens here is Derwin does come down. You can see his eyes on the flanker dig. You can see Alohi Gilman still outside. We already talked about how he gave up leverage on the play. And so now when you play this, it's very easy to see why exactly this happens. Now, when I bring it back, take note of what kind of defense the Chargers are running right here, which is Asante Samuel is here, Dean Leonard here, and these zones, these are more match deal, and what that means is that if the receiver breaks in, you're still going to follow him, even though you are technically in a cover 4. You're still going to follow him. Favorite play in the playbook: Khalil Mack dropping into the flats. Even better, your other edge rusher also dropping into the flats, which it's my favorite play personally. And then you do that because you want both linebackers to be populating the middle of the field. Otherwise, Travis Kelce has a great day. Or in this case, Sam Laporta. Everybody wants a reenactment of that. So what that means is that these safeties have the inside quarters. Now, the downside of a cover 4 is that if you don't have pinpoint communication, and I do mean like you need pinpoint communication, something's going to break open. And we've seen it for 3 years now, so you can't even argue it. It's you need pinpoint communication between these guys, which means in this case, Amon-Ra St. Brown was coming across. It either needs to be handed off or Alohi Gilman can't give up leverage like that. He needs to stick better to his man, or they need to align better. Something needs to happen there. So what happens in this case, cover 4, safeties have the inside. That's just how it works. So when you see this flanker dig come across right here, you're seeing Derwin James scoot up. And he's scooting up because he's basically playing robber inside. He doesn't want that catch to be allowed on the inside because 33, Dean Leonard is expecting help on this play. And if he doesn't get that help, that's also an issue. That's just an issue you have to live with in the cover 4. Now, what you expect here out of the Lions is for them to read Derwin James, see if he breaks on the flanker dig or if he breaks back on Amon-Ra St. Brown. As I said, I played the whole thing. Amon-Ra St. Brown was able to get through the entire defense without issue. Already had inside leverage on Alohi Gilman, and that's just an easy completion. Jake, I'm really excited to hear what you think of the play, defense included. I really just want to know because I was really excited to show you this play in particular. Especially in a season where it has been said by multiple quarterbacks now that they felt like they had all day to throw. Not a big deal. How did you feel about it?
I can see why you chose this play of all your plays that you've got on here, particularly for my opinion. I don't think you can overshadow how taking away your edge rushers like that is anything but just disastrous in terms of, but this is what this offensive play is manipulating the defensive for. And like you eloquently pointed out there, this is everything that's going on simply by just moving one guy down the offense and look what everything else is changing. It is really incredible how this is working in this type of formation. So yeah, I would not be a happy man watching a defense that is taking its best pass rushers out of contention to go get the quarterback. That's for sure. And then just from the standpoint of you're throwing it away, but still manipulating the best safety that the Chargers have on the back end away from everything. It's magician work. It's diversion 101. And this is how we're going to dissect you on the other side. I mean, offensively from Ben Johnson drawing this up, this is fantastic work. I had said it when Dan and I were on the post-game show after this game, and I had basically said that this was Ben Johnston's head coaching interview. You could just rip plays, numerous plays from this game. And this just gives you a good example of what he's capable of in this type of a role. So great job by you breaking it down, number one. But yeah, from a defensive standpoint, this is pretty much just a nightmare. And what's weird about it is that it doesn't even, outside of the edge rushers, Jason, it doesn't even look like from a matchup standpoint, because we've seen worse matchups. Hell, we saw last week where Kenneth Murray was trying to run down Gabe Davis against the Buffalo Bills. Matchup wise, this doesn't even look like it's that bad, but it's how the offense executes it that ultimately just makes this a huge chunk play and just makes the defense look ridiculous.
Jason, run it back from the top. So hit play, just let it run through. Because I want to make sure I see what I think I'm seeing before I comment on this. But I'm fairly certain that as Amon-Ra St. Brown comes down, the only guy who he ends up getting picked up with is Alohi Gilman. What is it? 15, 25 yards off the line. And say what you will about Alohi Gilman. I mean, love the guy. But advantage Amon-Ra St. Brown with 15 yards of steam. And you're having to guess which way he's going. And I think to your point, Jake, this is kind of a tale of two sides. One, Ben Johnson, good. And you see what the offense can do to manipulate a defense. And two, defense bad, both personnel, both scheme and matchup. All three of these things are bad, and lack of being able to adapt to this. And you saw it in game, how it just consistently failed. And you look at I just don't know how that defense is supposed to succeed against that offensive scheme when they're able to manipulate a defense like that. I mean, again, that's why Ben Johnson is where he is. That's why he's being looked at as arguably the most sought after head coaching candidate that's in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, look at the space right there. That's 15 yards of cushion between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Alohi Gilman.
So you can kind of, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can kind of understand what the defense wanted to do here. It was just such a good play call. It really was. And I mean, you can also criticize that Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are both dropping into coverage.
Now, what is he doing down there? How do you expect Khalil Mack to succeed in that position?
He has
That's not press.
All right,
That's not off.
He can do whatever he wants. Obviously, they did something right. Drop him so that they're not suspecting when you don't drop him.
There you go. That's success.
Trying to outsmart their outsmartedness, and they will end up outsmarting you.
Yeah, lots of smart going on this field right now, both ironically and unironically, depending on which side of the ball you're looking at.
Even just looking at that right there, pre-snap,
mm-hmm.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is either going to get picked up by Kenneth Murray or Alohi Gilman. Those are your two options. That is ugly.
Another person you're looking at here is 9. We pointed out 3 earlier. As a guy you're looking at, see if he comes up or goes back. What they do here with Laporta is they really just sit him here with the option to just get open and find a little space, and then they they have the in route right here to find the vacancy. So keep in mind with what I just drew there as I hit play and watch Kenneth Murray and Khalil Mack here sit on that route. And that's that snag you're looking for. It's snagging the linebacker, it's snagging the underneath coverage, and just allowing an easy completion over the top. You don't have to worry about anything else. All you're worrying about is Derwin James and where he goes. And that's how you attain leverage. Pre-snap, before the ball is even snapped, they want the rep. So great play call by Ben Johnson. So for this next play here, we're actually going to switch sides of the ball, and now we're going to look at Kellen Moore, and we're going to see what he does with Keenan Allen here. We're going to see what he does with this Chargers offense to get Keenan Allen leverage, to get Keenan Allen isolated. And so what we're looking at here is we are looking at an empty set, trips up top with the stack at the bottom of your screen. 13 and 30 together in a stack. If this was 2018, I would be walking on the moon. But it's 2023. So one of those guys has been great. So Lions outnumber the Chargers here 5-2 on the stack. And so what you have is you have the guy at the top. You have Aiden Hutchinson, who you wouldn't think would be included in this, but he is. We'll get to that in a minute. You have the linebacker, the safety, and then the mic. So you have 5 guys against your 2 in the stack. And so what the Chargers do here, this is the play call that was dialed in, is they move Austin Eckler. And much like I showed in the previous play, look how much those guys move. Look at before anything is moved, before guys move at all, and the difference that is. So everybody gets into their appropriate positions here. The ball is snapped, and you immediately can tell the difference. You can immediately tell the difference here. It is no longer 5-2. It's basically 2-on-1. And really, it's 1-on-1. He's isolated. And you have 97 here, and you have the safety dropping back. You already see the safety dropping back. You read the great quarterbacks read high to low. And what you get here is just a really easy pitch and catch because Keenan Allen has the leverage. He can get the leverage. He's one of those rare players where you do not need to mess everything up in order for him to win the route and attain leverage and make it an easy pitch and catch. So what you're doing here is you're just isolating him and letting him win the rep. And that's exactly what the Chargers do here. Lions try to throw a wrench in the plans by dropping Aiden Hutchinson in coverage. Great job. He has a career interception, so surely that works. But that's just an easy pitch and catch there. And a great play by the Chargers to counter what was originally in the Lions' favor. Like I said, you go from this point right here to this point where Keenan Allen is open and he's won leverage, and it's an entirely different look across the field. An entirely different window is opened up. You have manipulated the defense in the way that you wanted to so that your player could go and win, which is a phenomenal draw by Kellen Moore and the offense, and something they, like I said earlier, they've really made it a focus this season of getting Keenan Allen going. And that's just one example of how they did it. You were talking about 2018. If this was 2018, how you would feel about it. I remember Dan texting me after, I believe it was the Buffalo-Miami game last year. And just the formations that you were running with Buffalo, and you were basically just texting me saying, why in the hell can we not run some of these 5 formations, trips on one side, as Jason pointed out here, stacked on another, and getting guys out in space. And in this particular one too. Right. Yeah. And in this particular case, it's benefiting Keenan the most because it's getting him out in space, which obviously what he does best, totally shifting the focus of anybody else from the defensive side over to where Austin Eckler and the other 3 wide receivers are going. And you can get a nice one-on-one easy matchup in this circumstance. So whether this is something that was going to Keenan Allen or was going to be going to anybody else, these are the type of formations that you like to see more when it comes to misdirection of the defense.
And honestly, I will say, and I want Jason play this one through because I'm curious where Darius Davis ends up. That's something that Jake and I have talked about, and I've brought this up a few times. Like, easy production is what this team desperately lacks. Nothing comes easy to them. Like this play, that's easy production, but they just refuse to do that stuff more than I think they should and they could. And so, again, if you look at this, now I know the ball's already out, so really not much you can do here. You can't say Darius Davis was open, should have thrown it to him. But like, you look at that formation and you look at the matchup of Darius Davis, again, matched up 10, 15 yards off coverage versus safety. Imagine him just cutting across the field to hashes right there.
Yeah. I mean, or just going, just like he did here. He kind of faked going straight and then kind of made an inside move. At this point, that safety that's man on man with him doesn't know the ball is out yet. He turns his eyes inwards, then sees it. So like you look at this right here, this point right here, Davis won the rep. So anytime that you can get isolation opportunities like that and still be man to man at the top of the screen where the trips was, you would like to see more shots taken off of that. But here you can't be mad because it's very designed to go to Keenan Allen here, and they did a great job of drawing this up and opening a window.
In reality, like first play, this is what Ben Johnson does. Second play, here's what Keenan Allen does. It looks awfully similar. Don't miss and lose sight of this stuff with whoever the offensive coordinator is. But in this case, why Ben Johnson would be such a great fit, because he does this stuff all the time with a guy that plays a similar archetype to Keenan Allen.
Yeah, and it's only going to get more similar from here. I'll actually just move on to the next bit here. And here, what you're going to see is Sam Laporta come across again. But
shout out to all the tight ends that were picked last year's draft, by the way.
Yeah, we didn't need any of those. So you're going to see Sam Laporta comes across. Strays. Always. Dan, very negative guy.
Yeah.
You're going to see Sam Laporta come across here, and that's just pre-snap movement. And what you're really going to want to watch is this guy right here come all the way across. And I'll just let this one play out so you can watch the trail technique. Just focus on the trail technique here and what the Lions do to open a passing window. And you're going to notice it's actually similar to what they did with Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, presenting that isolation opportunity. You're just doing it down the field instead of at the line of scrimmage. What you're doing here is you're bringing the receiver down the formation or down the line of scrimmage, and you're just grabbing whichever DB you can get there. And what you're doing here is you're just opening a lane for Jared Goff. This route's going to be sharper. This route's just a clear out. Obviously, if this receiver wins leverage and the safety cheats over too much, you'll throw this. But really, the idea here is to get the passing window in here, inside of that DB. Now, this ends up incomplete, but you can see what they're going for here. And solid throw. Maybe like the receiver to catch it. Maybe got away with a little something there. I think that's Asante that gets away with a little something there. But you can see what the Lions were going for here. Very smart movement, pre-snap again to open up something down the field this time by having him trail and get really what you want is you want the safety out of there. That's what you want, and they got what they wanted. So another great play by the Lions there. Little less to talk about in this play, but I thought it was relevant moving forward into this next play here after this one, in which same thing. So you're going to look at Amon-Ra St. Brown come outside. This is a very common thing now. Get the outside motion, come across. Thanks, Mike McDaniel. We all love you for that. So you're going to see Amon-Ra end up outside here, which again, keep note of the formation they used, the motion they used, and where they end up.
So is that just your Taylor on the inside now?
I believe so, yes. And you have Asante Samuel matched up against Amon-Ra in this scenario. So what you're getting here is same thing. It's going to be a trail, so take notice of the trail. Lots of space because the Chargers love their space. Hey, it's still COVID year. Social distancing is still important, everybody. Keep that in mind here because they did a lot of social distancing here.
Look at this. Like, what is happening?
So this is, again, the same thing. Jamison Williams just in a trail technique. And what you're getting here is one of the corners stays in the flat and bumps his man and kind of goes downfield with him. That's Alohi Gilman. And Asante Samuel is just watching the outside cover 4. Kenneth Murray is in the other flats over here. And he's doing a great job too. Look, they're doing a great job. Good job, Kenneth Murray. And then you have Derwin James back here, who is now going to be forced to make a decision here. Do I cover this guy who looks like he's about to break open? Do I cover this guy who is wide open? Or do I cover this guy because this guy is about to break inside? So again, just getting guys open on the deep or intermediate to deep parts of the field. And I'll let that one play out a little bit just so you can see the impossible decision that Derwin James has to make here, which is like you can't win that rep.
Look at that freeze frame right there.
Yeah, you can throw it to anybody you want. It's great play.
I mean, and then if you go back to the beginning of this, I think both receivers on the bottom side of the screen are running free open routes for 15 yards.
Yeah, and top of the screen as well. I mean, wherever you want to go look, it's free release here. They understand they have the free release. They understand the spacing they have. And so now what you have is after Amon-Ra gets outside of Jamison Williams, he's going to do that same trail technique. Jamison Williams is going to clear out. Amon-Ra follows. Amon-Ra is wide open. And Jamison Williams is wide open. And the receiver over the top, you probably could have thrown that ball whenever you wanted. Against this formation, you talk about the deep post, and then you talk about a crosser, and you talk about a trail. Against this formation, that's the route concept you want. That's what you want to run. And they did a really good job of moving pre-snap to get all the pieces where they wanted them, and it just made it super easy. It just made it way easier than it should have been. It was going to be easy regardless because of the concept they drew up. And
Jason, go forward 2 frames on this, where you got Jamison Williams just wide open in the middle of that space. I'm curious if that whole plot of land in the middle where Jamison Williams is standing is for sale, because my house could fit in the middle of that plot that literally just has no charger.
Look at the 20-yard line all the way across. Like literally, Jake. I don't know if Jake could throw it that far, but like if Jake threw it and it made it to the 20, one of those 2 guys would get it.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where he threw it.
And I mean, if you think about it, if Laporta doesn't go as deep on his route up here as he did, then it's an even bigger space. So tell me if this looks familiar. I'll just play this one. Tell me if this looks familiar. Just tell me how familiar that looks. It's the exact same play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the exact same play.
Except defense is a little bit closer to people, but yes.
A little bit
less space between defender and receiver in this circumstance. But yeah, I see the similarities here.
So what you're getting here is you're getting Keenan Allen motioning outside of Jalen Guyton here, dynamic Jalen Guyton. And Jalen Guyton is doing what he does best in 2020 and clearing out. And really the only difference here is you're not getting the deep post, sadly. You'd like to see that deep option to clear things out. They don't do that here, but you still get what you want. You still get leverage has been attained by Keenan Allen at this point. Jalen Guyton did what he's supposed to do. He's catching the eyes of other players, and 1 and 7 are underneath, forcing the linebackers and forcing the flat defenders to come up. And this just opens up things for Justin Herbert to deliver a clean ball to Keenan Allen. Great play by them. It's a little off script there, but still does what the play is intended to do. Kellen Moore draws up a play to get Keenan Allen the ball yet again. Get something easy, except it wasn't made easy, but it should have been easy for these guys to go complete a pass downfield. A nice, easy scripted play right there. It goes pretty much the way you want to outside of pressure. Any thoughts on that last play?
I like as we talked about, this was one of those type of reasons where you could look at this as a high for both Kellen Moore and for Ben Johnston. Obviously, from a defensive perspective, for Brandon Staley and Aaron Glenn, this was kind of a nightmare given how many points each team put up on each other. But this is the type of aspect here, but it's more important from what Dan was saying earlier. It's like it's nice to see these type of formations. Mm-hmm. It's just the execution and how often they are actually put together and the consistency in which they are executed in. It's few and far between when it came to the Chargers, when it offensively from week to week.
Until it matters, it feels like, right? Until it's like do or die moment, until they absolutely need it. Like it's just kind of
jailbreak.
Yeah, it's just kind of pushed aside.
Only thing I will say is no, this is not Quentin Johnston's brother. It's just Ben Johnson. Yes. Freudian slip. Jake has said Ben Johnson 47 times this video. It is Ben Johnson.
Have I said it? Really? Sorry, did not mean to. Ben Johnson.
No, obviously.
They've just been my S's.
I'm getting ahead of all the comments that are going to say, who's Ben Johnson? I'm like, guys, come on.
Thank you. Appreciate it for backing me up. So if I have said that, I apologize.
Dang it, Jake.
Leave it to me to ruin everybody's day when it comes to this show.
The Grinch stole Jake's. The Grinch stole Jason's blueprints. That's what it is.
Or the Grinch stole Jake's grammar book.
All right, so we'll just move on to the next play from here. Nice little mesh by 7-1 there. I love Quentin Johnston being maximized in this offense. It's one of my favorite things.
Because it happens so many times.
Yeah, 100%. You know, anytime you can get Quentin Johnston to be a decoy underneath or over the top, it's great. Don't use your first round picks, guys. Kids, first round picks are for decoys, not for playmakers. So here, this is about as simple as it gets. This is just really an excuse for me to watch Keenan Allen and share it with the world. But it is a good play getting Keenan Allen isolated. So now you're moving Keenan Allen to the other side of the field. You saw him in the trips. You know, you look at what you have. You see 3-on-3 at the bottom. You see how crowded it is over the middle. What they generally run out of this formation is an option route to Keenan Allen. So what they'll generally do here is they'll have Keenan Allen kind of trail. So Jalen Guyton will just run a streak, or will run like a corner, and Keenan Allen will just kind of follow and sit right here. And he has the option to go this way. He has the option to go this way. Or he has the option to stay there, or he has the option to go this way. And that's generally how the Chargers like to work out of their bunches. And here, what they opt to do is they opt to take Keenan Allen and take him across the field. They see the single high safety. It's pretty much the exact look that you want here. And once you drag Keenan Allen across, once you bring him across and you see 23 stretch out wide, which is what they're going to do, but you see that safety sit and follow the post there. We were talking earlier about how Alohi Gilman followed the post. We talked about the trails. This is basically trail again. Wherever the first receiver goes on the inside, the goal here is to fill the vacancy. We talked about it with the Lions play earlier when they had Laporta run the snag. A snag is just basically if this tight end was just going to stop right here and try to draw the eyes of the safety. That's essentially what a snag is. And here what they do is they just have the tight end keep going. And Keenan Allen's just going to fill the vacancy in the way that Keenan Allen does, which is an arsenal of subtle movements to just get himself open. And one of the better routes you'll see. And a lot of people don't appreciate that route because that route is just ridiculous. We're going to take it all the way back up there. Because at this point, it's just, you look at the top of your screen, that's just Keenan Allen being Keenan Allen. And a great throw by Justin Herbert too, but a great job by Kellen Moore, because if this play goes differently and you have the safety cheat outside or inside, you know, this could be an easy throw as well. And what they do here is round one decoy Quentin Johnston going underneath to free up some space for the tight end as well.
And safety valve, Austin Eckler on the bottom if you need it. One-on-one.
Yeah, always. He has to get that record back, Dan. All right. He has to get the franchise record back. And so this just becomes an easy pitch and catch for Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen because it's well drawn up and they get the defense to do what they wanted. And anytime you can get isolation with Keenan Allen here, they isolate down the field. We were talking about isolating at the line of scrimmage versus isolating downfield. Here it's essentially isolating downfield because you're drawing that safety away. So those are some of the similarities between Ben Johnson and Kellen Moore, what they both bring to the table with getting their primary receivers open, with attaining leverage by different means pre-snap, and with doing it down the field to isolate their best playmakers. Hopefully this helps a little bit in understanding that moving on from Kellen Moore, moving into a different offense entirely, you're still getting those highs that some coaches set. It's a league where you look around at different matchups and different games, and you pick and choose what you want to bring to the table as well from other coordinators. And Ben Johnson has proven that he can do the same things that Kellen Moore does with Keenan Allen. He's done them with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And so hopefully this gives you a better idea of what you're getting with Ben Johnson if he does end up being the Chargers head coach.
Do you have concern about him coming to a Chargers team that isn't going to have the same skill set? You could talk about Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Gerald Everett, and Austin Eckler, and all that kind of stuff. The names sound great, but in terms of who A is on the field, B who's actually producing, C play calling, just haven't done it. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, these guys are all balling. Is that because of him or because they're on the field?
Kind of to my take on this, a lot of people want that culture shock with an experienced head coach. I do too. I think culture needs to change in the Chargers organization. And this is related to what you're asking, Dan. Ben Johnson has been a part of that through and through. I don't know if you guys remember 3 or 4 years ago when it was the Lions. I think it was 3 years ago when the Lions were the team that was losing by 7 or by 3 all the time, every week, it felt like. And I remember the interview the press conference with Dan Campbell, where he's like, we're so close. We're so close. It's not going to keep happening. I promise you, we're so close. And sure enough, you've seen over the last couple of years, and I think that year was when they moved from Anthony Lynn to Ben Johnson. And from then on, Ben Johnson's been part of that process where they've completely turned it around. He's been a part of that culture change. He's seen it. He's been with it, and he's gotten his playmakers to play an integral part in that culture change. And he was doing it before he had Jahmyr Gibbs, before Sam Laporta. Those guys are rookies, man. You're talking about Ben Johnson would get to come here and have a top 10 pick to take whatever rookie he wanted. And he's doing it with 2 rookies. Has changed. You could say it's changed. You could say it hasn't. It hasn't. Detroit has been a top offense with him at the helm. When it was looking lost, it was looking bad. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about that because I know he has his pick of who he wants. If he wants Malik Neighbors, you get him Malik Neighbors. And Ben Johnson with Malik Neighbors is crazy to me, but he's even proved he doesn't need that. He go get him Brock Bowers. If he wants Brock Bowers, go draft Brock Bowers and turn him into Ben Johnson's Sam Laporta on steroids. I'm not worried about it. He has his pick.
Cool.
And you didn't even mention the fact that he would have Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen in that offense.
Allen, right.
Just a side note.
Kind of important.
Yeah. Jason, this is awesome, man. I love it. It kind of gives, a behind the scenes look at what actually happens, what mesh points actually are, and what points of conflict can mean to a team. So I'm all about it, dude. Nice job.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. That's going to be the goal from here on out is to bring a little something different to the table. We'll see how often we do it. I'm aiming for at least once a month, bring one of these big ones in here to where I can bring a few plays and show you exactly who brings to the table. And I had a lot of fun being able to teach it and show it, and hopefully you guys had fun too, being able to hopefully learn something from it. Hopefully we're just enjoyed tagging along if you didn't learn something from it. This has been Blueprints with Dan, Jason, and Jake. You know what? I should probably come first. This is my show, Dan. Get out of here.
Hey, you go. Sorry.
Exactly. Exactly.
Move me over there. So this has been Blueprints with Jason, Dan, and Jake. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something from it. And here's till next time.